All right, y'all. So what's good? Welcome in on today's talk. My name is Amari. If you didn't know, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for chiming in while you can. So today we're gonna talk about pretty much, what's been really working extremely well for me, like in real time. Right? We're gonna kind of break it down. And I think it's a strategy for people to use and should be using, if you're trying to build your audience, grow your brand, and create like, meaning in relationships and business. And so here's the formula, right? So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm hosting free networking events that attract the exact type of people that I want to connect with, right? Entrepreneurs, CEOs, business professionals, creatives, founders, people of influence, people of affluence. And then I'm using those events to build a podcast, expand my reach, and bring massive value to everybody involved, right? So let me just break down how I'm hosting free events where I think everybody should host a free event, whether online or in person, but how I'm hosting free networking events in order to be able to build my audience and then also leverage it into other things, right? Check this out. So let's just keep it real. Everybody wants community, everybody wants connections, and everybody just wants to be in the right rooms. So I just created the room. I host the event, I create the room, nothing crazy, no massive production, just an intentional space where, like-minded people can meet, talk, vibe, and just honestly share what they do. But here's the key, right? Make it free, right? When it's free and curated, people show up without pressure. There's no purpose, there's no barrier of entry, right? And honestly, the vibe matters more than the venue. So you don't need a conference hall. All you need literally is the right energy, a welcoming format, and something that encourages people to interact, right? And something people honestly will want to come back to. All right, so somebody has a question here. Amar, how do you make sure the right people show up? So I make sure the right people show up by simply just knowing the type of person that I want to have at the event. It is very simple. So no, I know I want business professionals, entrepreneurs, people in tech, people like that. So I name my networking events. I name it the business entrepreneurship and tech networking, social networking party, networking event, right? And also I put other things in, like in the custom questions when people want to go and sign up. It says, what industry are you in? Are you a CEO, founder? Like, what category are you in? Are you a employee? Are you a tech enthusiast? What does that look like for you? Are you self-employed? So I know my avatar. Then also I just set the room. Hey, come. I don't say come dressed to impress. I say come dress how you want to be addressed, right? However you want people to address you is how you're going to dress. Very simple. And that's how I make sure the right people show up. And then also, it's a networking event. I host the event on a certain day. It's on a Thursday or Wednesday during the week when people are in work mode, right? When people are in grind mode, when that type of avatar usually will show up to something like that. I don't really host them on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, right? So that's kind of how I make sure the right people show up. But then also I show up myself in that manner, right? I am in the tech space. We are building a networking community. So we make sure that we show up in these places, right? So step one is host a free networking event, right? Step two is building the audience while you build your community, right? So the moment people walk in, you're building brand equity. People are going to follow you, tag you, talk about the experience, ask who put this together. And so that's pretty much brand positioning, literally on autopilot. And if you document the event, photos, recap videos, reels, interviews, now you've got evergreen content that speaks for you. Plus, if you have a registration system, email, RSP, link in bio, now you also built your email list and your follower count with real engaging people, pretty much. And that's how audience grows with intention. And a lot of questions that I get, another question that I get is, should I do RSCPs even if it's free? And my answer is yes, because the number one goal of doing anything is to collect data, name, numbers, and emails. If you notice, your biggest social media platforms are free to sign up, but they always want your name and your email at the least. I say go for the number as well. And if people want to put it in there, they can, right? Make it like a requirement, whether it's Eventbrite, Posh, whatever it is, whether it's Pilot Life, right? And so, yes, you want to do RCP so you can collect this data so now you can build your own database. So now step three is this. This is how I go from hosting a networking event, having the numbers, names, and emails, building an audience, to now what I'm doing now is podcasting. I believe that everybody should do a podcast, whether that's in person or whether that's in studio or whether that's online, like how I'm recording this Zoom right here for you guys, right? And so this is how you turn an event into podcasting with the guests from the podcast. Now, here's a play people miss, right? After the event, I put out the podcast guest inquiry to those who attended. You know, they already met me. They know the vibe, felt the energy, trust what I'm building. So now instead of cold DMing people or begging for guests, I'm filtering warm, qualified leads who are literally aligned with the brand. Some join me virtually on Zoom. Some pull up to the studio for a full episode. Others do a quick 2-minute in-person interview at the event itself, which makes for crazy short-form content. Those pieces of content go crazy. And here's a secret, right? Every guest brings their own audience. So now your event becomes a pipeline for podcasting content, partnerships, and new reach. And some people ask me, hey, Amari, you know, how do you decide who gets a full episode via a short-form in-person clip? It's very simple. It's all about give or take the value proposition. And that's what we always have to have discernment about. You know, what value are we giving and what are we giving? So for example, right, an in-person clip. I want to try to interview people that have, if I'm going to put this on social media, on Instagram per se, and I'm doing a short form interview, I want to try to leverage people who are way higher than me with a big social media following that people recognize, or people that are kind of around my same tier who I can collab post with them, because I want to collab post with these people so it goes on their platform as well. And then I'm going to gain that momentum because now my audience is being introduced to their audience, their audience being introduced to my audience, right? And then also I kind of put a filter as well. You know, we do charge for the short in-person clips, right? Because we know what it can potentially do for that client, as well as it's a piece of content that we're not creating to help build their brand, right? By us recording it, putting it on our platform, putting it on my platform, collaborating with them, we're doing all the work, correct? So we do give a charge for that. Also, who gets a full episode? It depends. If I know I have a chance to interview somebody who is willing to collab post, is willing to have that content out there, then I'm going to take that chance and I'm going to build off of that and use that as credibility. Does that make sense? So if I have somebody that it has 100,000 followers and they're willing to collab post and, you know, we're going to have a great conversation, I may do that for free. But for somebody who also I know who needs the content as well, you know, I'll have them get on the episode and I'll do like a VIP package, right? Where we're going to give them the full episode, short clips, collab with them, post it on, you know, 15 to 25 different other social media outlets to get their brand out there. Because I know if somebody sells a $500 product on a $1,000 product, I was on a call with a lady that sells a $2,500 product. Let's say that the investment is $500 or $750 or $1,000. The question is, based off of our avatar and our audience, what is the cost of maybe that person not investing? I literally saw somebody grow 5,500 subscribers on YouTube, get 3 potential clients, which could potentially net them $200,000 in business. Plus, if they do good business, those 3 clients will get them 3 more clients. So that's 9 potential clients, 27 potential clients. And I can go on and on and on with just one, not even a podcast clip based off what they were talking about. So that's kind of what I decide. Also, is somebody close to me? Are they further? If somebody's further and I may not be able to get them in person, well, let's do an online podcast episode. If they're close in the area where I can get to or where I'm at, let's do a full episode online. But at the end of the day, if somebody's looking to build their brand online and somebody's looking to leverage social media in order to build their brand, and they don't want to edit the podcast episode and do all the things that's required, then they're gonna pay. They're gonna pay and invest into that content, especially if you're asking very good questions. If you're talking about the niche that they're in, you know, and you're allowing them to get talking points, so that now they can have those pieces of content. So that's kind of how I decide who will get a full episode versus short person clip. All right, so step 4 is you want to give value to the guests and the audience. So let's talk about kind of value exchange really quick. And what I would say is that you're not putting people on your podcast for content only. You're giving them visibility, a platform, credibility, quality content that they can repost, right? You're helping them share their story while simultaneously building your audience. And your audience gets to hear real conversations from real people in the same rooms. That's your building, honestly. And so it feels authentic and community driven. This creates a cycle of win-win content. The event builds your list, the guest brings new eyes, the content builds trust, and the value just multiplies. And another question that I get is, do you ask your podcast guests to promote their episode? Yes, I do. I say, hey, look, I would love to do a collab post. That can come in the form of a collab post. That can come in the form of a banner. That can come in the form of, you giving them the content and them tagging you when they post it with their team, correct? And so you ask for these things in exchange for the value that you're giving on the other end. So yes, I do ask podcast guests to promote our episode. Why not? Because I know if they have a product to sell or audience to build, the more they promote the episode that they're on, the more eyes are going to come. So yes, I ask people to promote the episode 100%. Why not? That is a must. Promote our episode, right? Especially if they're coming for a certain reason, right? Because everybody wants more eyes. More eyes creates more flow. More flow creates more momentum. More momentum creates more money. More money creates more freedom. More freedom creates a sense of peace. So you gotta understand, this is bigger than a podcast. It's an ecosystem. Now check this out. Here's what really is happening behind the scenes. When you're hosting a mixer or a networking event, right? You're not just hosting a mixer. What you're doing is you're really building the ecosystem. The event brings community. It brings content. Content builds audience. Audience builds influence. Influence brings opportunity. And opportunity brings income. And you're giving people a space to connect and a reason to talk afterward about your event. And over time, you become the connector, the creator, and the curator. Well, I should start using that. You become the connector, the creator, and the curator. Just came up with that. That's awesome. And it's a long-term play. So if you've been trying to figure out how to grow your brand, how to get podcast guests or how to create consistent, valuable content without burning out, here's the formula one more time. You ready for this? Please write this down. Host the event, capture the content, invite the guests, share the stories, and let the value circulate. Simple as that. And if you document the whole entire process, now you've got long form, short form, and behind the scenes that people actually care about because it's real, it's people focused, and it's intentional, right? So one of the questions that I get is, what's the first thing that we should do this month to start implementing your strategy? The thing is, host an event in person and host one online. And that's another topic that we'll do. We'll talk about another day, but host an event. Very, very simple. Anyways, if you like this, if you got some value from this, please put some ones in the chat. Also, if you're watching this from anywhere, because we're going to repost this, definitely, like, subscribe, share if you got some value, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So appreciate y'all. And Amari, I'm out. Make sure you stay tuned in so you don't get tuned out. Let's go.